Cycle destroying your hands. We need to get good for numbers. I thought Gurgadanga's animals are destroyed.
Are you going to play Gurganda?
No.
Why?
It's already bad enough.
Oh, okay. Hey, if you can pass me Gurganda.
Balaram, is this the verse you did before?
I don't think so. Damodar's not here.
Good.
Thank you. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Radha Madhava
Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradari
Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashoda Nandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yamuna Thira Vanachari Yamuna Thira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa Parivajik Jai Ashtotar Shadda Shri Srimad Islam Grace Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai All glories of the sum of devotees All glories of the sum of devotees All glories of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga All glories of Shri Guru Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya
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 Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
So no one has any something to read the verse from, huh? Nothing? You have. Well, I guess if you just want to try to repeat it, it's not that difficult actually. Evam parabhidyanena.
Evam parabhidyanena.
It's, Canto 3, entitled Status Quo, Chapter 26, Fundamental Principles of Material Nature, and we're on text 6. So it's 3:26:6. What is it? Oh, really? Someone needs to flip the page. 6. Canto 3, Chapter 26, Text 6. Evam parabhidyanena kartritvam prakriter puman. Okay. Karmasu kriyamaneshu gunar atmini manyate. Evam parabhidyanena kartavyam prakriter puman. Karmasu kriyamaneshu Gunaratmani manyate.
Gunaratmani manyate.
Evam paravidyanena.
Evam paravidyanena.
Kartritvam prakatir puman.
Kartritvam prakrite pumam.
Karmasu kriyamaneshu.
Karmasu kriyamaneshu.
Gunaratmani manyate.
Gunaratmani manyate.
Want to chant Jagannath?
Evam paravidyanena. Evam paravidyanena. Kartritvam prakrite pumam. Kartritvam prakrite pumam. Karmesu kriyamaneshu. Karmesu kriyamaneshu. Gunaratmani manyate. Gunaratmani manyate. Evam paravidyanena. Evam paravidyanena. Kartritvam prakrite pumam.
Kartritvam prakate puman.
Karmasu kriyamaneshu.
Karmasu kriyamaneshu.
Gunaratmani manyate.
Gunaratmani manyate. So can you do it without the...
Evam prakriti. Evam. Evam paravidyanena.
Brahmanena.
Kartvam prakrite pumam.
Kartritvam prakate puman.
Karmesu kriyamaneshu.
Karmasu kriyamaneshu.
Gunaratmani manyate.
Gunaratmani manyate.
Evam
Paravidyanena.
Kartritvam prakate puman.
Karmasu kriyamaneshu. Gunaratmani manyate. Evam, in this way. Para, other. Abhidyanena,
Abhidyanena.
by identification.
By identification.
Kartritvam,
Kartritvam.
the performance of activities.
Performance of activities.
Prakritehe,
Prakritehe.
of the material nature.
Of the material nature.
Puman,
Pumam.
the living entity.
The living entity.
Karmasu kriyamaneshu,
Karmasu kriyamaneshu.
while the activities are being performed.
All the activities are being performed.
Gunai,
Gunai.
by the three modes.
By the three modes.
Atmani,
Atmani.
to himself.
To himself.
Manyate,
Manyate.
he considers.
He considers.
Because of his forgetfulness, translation, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his field of activities. And thus actuated, he wrongly applies the activities to himself. Purport. The forgetful living entity can be compared to a man who is under the influence of disease and has become mad, or to a man haunted by ghosts, who acts without control and yet thinks himself to be in control. Under the influence of material nature, the conditioned soul becomes absorbed in material consciousness. In this consciousness, whatever is done under the influence of the material energy is accepted by the conditioned soul as self-actuated. Actually, the soul in its pure state of existence should be in Krishna consciousness. When a person is not acting in Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be acting in material consciousness. Consciousness cannot be killed, for the symptom of the living entity is consciousness. The material consciousness simply has to be purified. One becomes liberated by accepting Krishna, or the Supreme Lord, as master, and by changing the mode of consciousness from material consciousness to Krishna consciousness. Om Agyanatimantasya Garanjana Shalakaya Chukshudhanmalatamena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Mukham Kalivachalam Pangam Nangayate Gurum Yakibhata Mahan Vande Shri Gurun Dintranivam Vancha Kapdabhisha Kibasan Vivacha Patitanam Pavnebhya Vaishnavya Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Okay, read it again. Because of his forgetfulness, the transcendental living entity accepts the influence of material energy as his field of activities. And thus actuated, he wrongly applies activities to himself. So there's a saying, right? What does a goat not eat, and what does a madman not say? So in other words, goats, they just whatever they find they'll eat, or like pigs also, they just whatever they find they'll eat. And similarly, what will a madman not say? So in other words, they'll say all types of crazy stuff. And they may be clearly insane in terms of, everybody knows an insane person, but they also may be insane, but in very high positions in the material world. Like, of course, you could say they're not insane like somebody, you could say a homeless person on the street. Sometimes you see homeless, insane people on the street. But they're insane in a different way. You could say maybe more of a mode of passion way. Because the people who are insane in the mode of ignorance, that's really some dark, stuff. But a person who's insane in the mode of passion, they're insane, but and they propagate all their weird ideas. But somehow or other, because they have that tinge of mode of passion, they're able to function in the world in somewhat of a normal way. And therefore people think that they're more or less normal, like more or less sane. But from their activities, or at least from what they think to be true and so on, and we would, in the Srimad Bhagavatam would say, oh, it's insane. Like so many of these professors at the universities, I hear more and more the glories of the professors of the universities, and that they, as time goes on, they keep on developing weirder and weirder and weirder ideas. But because they went to school, because they got their degrees, because they accepted positions of authority and a position of a teacher and institution, people accepted, okay, hey, well, this guy's smart or this woman's smart, and they went through the school, and they went through many years of school, so therefore I should listen to what they say. And anyways, we don't have to get into the details of all the strange things that I hear sometimes they come up with. But mostly it's like extreme cases of hedonism and and so on like that. So, and then the students, they become trained in that. They become trained in that, okay, hey, well, my professor, and this is what he's saying, this is what she's saying, and it must be true. Because people are easily influenced. So, whether someone's deeply in the mode of ignorance and insane, they're not going to really get too far in influencing people with their ideas. But if someone's, like I was saying, if they're mode of passion and they have the insane ideas, then they could get pretty far, actually. Just like all these dictators in different countries, right, over the years, over the last 100 years or 200, whatever it is, they were clearly insane. And not everybody agreed with them, but there was a lot of people who agreed with them because they were able to convince a lot of people, because they weren't, you could say, like we see sometimes people who are, they can't even hold a conversation, right? So yeah, that's what Prabhupada's saying, that the living entity is compared to a man who's under the influence of a disease, like someone has a fever or something, and then they start, and their mind becomes, you could say, out of order, disordered, right? And therefore they laugh and all this, or they cry, and all this types of emotions going on. So it's under the influence of a disease, or has become mad, or to a man haunted by ghosts, who acts without control and yet thinks himself to be in control. So, or also you could think of like drugs. People, they take drugs or they drink alcohol, and yeah, they become disoriented, and they start thinking all types of different things that are not true. Or in the case of like hallucinogenics, right? You eat some mushrooms, right? Some fungus, magic mushrooms they call, or you take a tab of LSD, right? And what happens with that? Okay, some time passes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and then you start hallucinating. You start hallucinating, and all of a sudden, everything's, you could say, becomes more intense. You start like hearing the noises. That you start really paying attention to that, or the floor, starts moving, or whatever, like that, on and on and on. Or for example, somebody's sick. They have a cold, right? And then you go up to them, and because you could say out of your mind, you think, are you dying? Are you okay? You might think the person's actually dying, but they just have a cold. So, in other words, they fall into an illusion, and they don't see things for what they are, but they're seeing things in a distorted fashion. Similarly, alcohol and so on, and they lose, you could say, control of themselves. So within material existence, it's a similar thing, that people are thinking, if the reality is, okay, there is a God, and I'm the eternal servant of God, or Krishna, and there is a soul, right? I am the soul, and so on, all these different things that we hear from the Bhagavad Gita. If this is all reality, we could just, if this is all reality, we could say that people are in some really deep illusion because people don't know about it. And even if they do know about it, they don't accept it. So that means people are in some really deep illusion, if that is reality. So the point is, people are thinking that they are something that they're not, right? They're thinking, I am, this is who I am, this temporary position I am, right? American and such age and from a particular location, particular family, and this is who I am, right? They're identifying with that. Or a dog is thinking, I'm a dog, right? You might not be thinking like consciously, okay, I'm a dog, but the soul in that body is identifying with the dog body, and therefore it's barking, right? Like last night, we went to a kirtan, and then afterwards, we were getting into the car, and the dog was just barking, barking. And I asked the devotee, I said, "Hey, why is it barking?" Of course, I have an idea, obviously, but he said, it's the dog's territorial. They're thinking, hey, you're in my space. And I said, well, angry? And he said, yeah, irritated, angry, get out of my space type of thing. But the point is, barking is identifying with that body, the soul is. So whatever body the soul is in, they identify with that body. Which is not the reality, actually, because they're not the body. They're not the body, they're the soul, right? So so because they're not the body, that means to identify with it and think oneself the body, that means to be an illusion. And that's what most people are doing. So to have all these, ideas that are incorrect, what does that mean? That means that the person is just, it's like they're on a drug. It's like they're on a drug. They're intoxicated. And that's the fact, that they're intoxicated. So you could say, the intoxication of the material mode of ignorance. We could take that. It's like a pill. We could think, for discussion's sake. It's like a pill in which you take it, and then you're influenced by the mode of ignorance. You like certain things, you like certain foods, right? And so on and so on and so on, because it's a drug that was taken, and it influences you to be the mode of ignorance. Or just like you could say, you could take the drug of the mode of passion. You take that mode of passion pill, and all of a sudden you're fired up to make lots of money and whatever it is. Drive fast cars and go skydiving and all types of stuff, right? Wonderful stuff. Or we could take the drug of atheism. You take that pill, and I'm an atheist. I hate, no God and no soul, and let me just enjoy my body and my senses and whatever. Try to avoid some pain in the meantime, and then I die. Or you could take the Mayavadi pill. Take the Mayavadi. Hey, we're all God. It sounds pretty good. Yeah, we're all God. So it's a drug. And Rupa Goswami actually refers to that in some of his poetry, which I don't know the Sanskrit. Jrita Prabhu's not here to back me up on this one, but it is there, and we could confirm it with Jrita Prabhu later, that Rupa Goswami mentions this idea of taking, of course there's that shloka, he's talking about mixing the drink, with the spice of love and all that, and which is Krishna's name and Radha's name, like that. There's a drink, which is mentioned, but also Rupa Goswami mentions the drug of love of God, the drug of love of God. So the drug which we become intoxicated with love for Krishna. So that's there as well, and that is the particular thing. That is the particular, you could say, intoxication that we want to fall under. We don't want to fall under the intoxication of the modes, the modes of nature, or the Mayavadi ideas, or the atheistic ideas, or any of these ideas, but we want to fall under Krishna consciousness. And also Rupa Goswami, he says about ghosts, he mentioned ghosts. So he says that as long as, or not ghosts, he says witches. Now we think of witches, and they got the big nose, and they got the wart, on their nose, and they got the big hat or something, like Halloween time, and they laugh all, scary and weird, and they put spells on people, right? It makes them go insane or something. And they fly around on broomsticks, right? They fly up in the sky. And actually, Prabhupada mentions that about Putana. When you read in the Krishna book, this history of Putana, that she was a baby killer. She would go around to all the towns and kill all the babies. Drink their blood, kill the baby, like that. Baby killer. But she had these mystic powers, and Prabhupada was alluding to witches, witch power. And Prabhupada actually said that they take branches off of trees and then they, fly around like that. He says that right there. Remember that, right? So anyways, but the witches, Rupa Goswami mentions the witches. So he said, as long as the witches of bhukti and mukti, which is bhukti is materialistic, materialistic, selfish, egotistic, you could say desires for enjoyment of this world, or mukti, the idea of escaping this world, going off into a hermitage in the Himalayas or whatever it is, or just trying to escape the sufferings of this world, not facing the world. As long as those are dancing within their heart, you can imagine these witches dancing, then one cannot experience the real bliss of Krishna consciousness. They may experience some, but not. So in other words, it's encouragement to, give the witches an eviction notice. Tell them to leave. Please leave. And of course, it's a gradual process. You may tell them to leave and then come back and leave and come back, leave, come back, leave. Come back. But then the idea is to completely kick them out. Sometimes people kick each other out. Okay, get out of like that. So it's very important to work on that. So yeah, this is pretty simple, idea that when a person is not acting in Krishna consciousness, he is understood to be acting in material consciousness. So the basic thing is that we have senses and they require engagement, and if one's not engaging them in Krishna consciousness, then they'll be engaged in material activity. So the idea is to become more and more and more attached, attracted, absorbed in spiritual activities, and less and less and less and less and less and less involved in material activities. Because material activities produce material consciousness, and material consciousness is like, you could say, the ball and chain, that keeps us very nicely secured to the whole material phantasmagoria, this whole material experience, which people argue is not so bad, but there are some difficulties. And if a person's insane, then they won't admit that. But if a person's sane or trying to be sane, then they'll admit that, okay, there's some difficulties and this maybe isn't the best place, and I'm like that. So that is the challenge that modern society, because it's so, you could say, jacked up and so everybody's just so pushed, everybody's just so pushed to be a materialist that over time people become just crazy, actually. They become completely crazy. And we see that more and more and more as time goes on. People just become crazy. All the options of sense gratification just completely destroys people's minds, actually. So that's the problem with that's the difficulty. That's the problem with material activities, is that over time you could say it erodes a person's mind. It erodes the capability of thinking for oneself, right? It erodes the ability to even be a human being. I mean, really, because the mind. If the mind is if the ability to concentrate is destroyed, the Bhagavatam says, then the person's lost. They can't focus, they can't concentrate, they can't think for themselves. So then what happens to such a person like that? I mean, they're slaves, pretty much. They're complete slaves. And this is, what modern society is really pushing. They're just pushing this for whatever reason, money, or they think it's a good thing, or the leaders, or whatever it is. But they're just pushing this. And people become insane. So it's therefore the devotees. It's not exactly easy to help people become devotees, because all this training, previous wonderful training people got. It's very difficult to help people become devotees. But some people become devotees, and that is the idea, that we help people become devotees. So we ourselves give up these material activities, accept spiritual activities, become purified, become more and more sane in Krishna consciousness, and then we help others. That's extremely important. Like Sanatana Goswami, I think, one of the Goswamis, he mentions the three aspects of that a Vaishnav, every Vaishnav should meditate on and have in their life. women, men, Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, or black or white or whatever this, that. They should meditate on these three things, and not only meditate, but they should actually perform these three things, and then their life will be successful. And they say Harinam, chanting Hare Krishna, that's right, we all know that. Vaishnav Seva, serving the devotees, and Jiva Doi, helping the conditioned souls. So, although it seems very simple, these ideas, these different processes of doing this, and in many ways it is, but it's a lifelong thing, and it is something that can always be expanded. So yes, I'm chanting Hare Krishna now, right? We're all chanting. But we could chant better, more quality, we could chant more, right? We could do more kirtans, we could meditate how I could chant better. We could discuss with devotees how I could chant better. We could read books how I could chant better, right? We could listen to lectures how I could chant better. We could try to chant better. And we could read the glories of the holy name. From the Acharyas have so many wonderful descriptions of the holy name. And this way we feel inspired, not that it's just like another thing on our checklist, right? Okay, I gotta sweep my room in the ashram or whatever, or a house, or I gotta do this, I gotta do that, I gotta do that. And I also gotta chant, it's like part of the list. The Vaishnav Seva, it's like, okay, I'm serving Vaishnavas now, great. But that could always expand, that could always be more. I could serve more Vaishnavas, right? I could figure out ways how to serve more Vaishnavas in SanDiego or in the world, right? Somehow, some other, with my talents, with my abilities, with my strengths, I could serve them. And if we don't use our strengths, our talents, and our abilities to serve Vaishnavas, then it's a waste, actually. It's a complete waste of a talent. So to serve, Larry is actually very intelligent. Larry Bowl, Larry Bowl, Bhakti Larry, like Hari Bowl, Larry Bowl. Larry's intelligent because he gets this idea. Oh, I need to serve the Vaishnavas, and he tries to do it, and he does do it actually. But what I'm about to say is that he's intelligent because he figured out a way to serve many Vaishnavas all at the same time, and he said that. Therefore, he makes these juice. There's a nectar for the Sunday feast. The 4 buckets of juice. And why does he do that? Because he's thinking, it's a long night, and everybody's chanting and dancing, and there's a lot going on, and people become thirsty. So I figured if I make this nice, organic, whatever it is, fruit juice. Don't panic, it's organic, right? This fruit juice, then I'll please 50, 100 Vaishnavas all at the same time. I'll make them happy. And then when he makes the cookies too. He's trying to perfect his cookie making. And I remember in the beginning, it wasn't, to be quite honest, he wasn't that expert in making the cookies. But over time, he became more and more expert, and he learned the art, right? And he could make nice cookies and juice. And so the point is he figured out ways. In America, practically everybody loves cookies. You put some, Indian, sweets back there sometimes, like some, ladus or some rasgullas or something. They'll sit there, all day long. But you put some cookies back there, and they'll be gone in, 1 minute, 2 minutes, everybody will take. So he understood this. Oh, I'm in America. People like cookies. All right, let me master the art of making cookies. Serve the devotees. And then this idea of helping people. So anybody who has some, you could say, compassion, who cares about people, they want to help people, and they help people in different ways. Some people, on Christmas, right? Gone down to the homeless shelter. There's 2,000 people down there, and then they serve them the dinner or Thanksgiving, right? Or they go and they take some money out of their paychecks, and then they buy a whole bunch of sweaters and go down and give them to the homeless, downtown or something, or whatever it is, on and on and on. Sometimes you try to give homeless people food in SanDiego, they don't want to take it. Anyways, it's kind of an interesting place. So yeah, the people want to help people, and this is what is being referred to, that jiva doy, that compassion for the jivas, compassion for the souls. That people, they need Krishna consciousness, and it's an urgent need. It's not something that could wait, It's an urgent need, and the idea is that the devotees, because they have that compassion within their heart, then they try to give the gift of Krishna consciousness to people. And again, that's something that could be done more and more and more and more and more, and it could be expanded to more and more and more people in different ways. Ajadarna had this interesting idea that he makes this artwork, which is really nice. And he gets this canvas, right? He gets canvas, and he cuts all types of pictures, and paints, and this and that, and then there's a spiritual message there. There's messages from Bhagavad Gita or so on, explaining to people spiritual principles. And then he, people purchase them, and then they have them, and there's a spiritual message there. So it's a way to help people, communicate it. Important message. So there's so many ways in which we could help people. I mean, even just the idea of book distribution. I mean, distributing spiritual books. There's so many people that in SanDiego and all over the world who don't have a book. That's one thing, or any books, Hare Krishna books. So in our travels here and there and wherever we go, if we keep books, we'll meet people naturally, and they may be interested, and they'll take some books. And that's also an unlimited thing, because we're always meeting people and going here and going there. So on and on and on. So if we could do those three things, the chanting the holy name and always trying to better that, and what's the other one? And serving the Vaishnavas, serving the spiritual, our spiritual associates, and trying to help people, then we'll make a lot of advancement towards Krishna consciousness. So does anyone have any questions? Yes. A little while ago means in this talk or some other time?
I think in another Bhagavatam class, but just to clarify a little more. There's the offense not to preach the faithless, but then everyone's faithless pretty much, right? Except for maybe a few extremely
All right, great. Well,
souls that needs to be. But
we should just stay here then.
yeah, but then
You wouldn't be here if
I know exactly that's the point.
you wouldn't be here if someone didn't tell you.
So then if it's an offense to preach to the faithless, then the idea comes, well then, how can we preach? And that's the idea of Anushrava Kirtan, right?
Well, like in Bhagavad Gita, there's an interesting purport in which, or interesting verse in purport in which it says, the verse says that you shouldn't disturb the minds of others by trying to bring them to the path, really. That's what's practically it's saying. But then in the purport, it's interesting that Prabhupada says that that the devotees, they understand the heart of Krishna, of God. They understand the heart, and they understand, you could say, the deeper meaning. That Krishna does want people to come back, and although he says that in the verse, don't disturb. But aside from that, Prabhupada says that the devotees are, more merciful than Krishna. I don't know. That's kind of mind-boggling, but you could think about that for a few years and then get back to us, which tells how you figured that one out. But in terms of preaching to the faithless, or trying to teach the faithless, explain to the faithless, that is referring to envious people, not average kind of innocent people who are friendly and accepting. Like, if you go to a classroom and speak about Krishna consciousness to students, right, at a college, and you give them all books, and they all take the books, for example, Chant, Be Happy, or, Hare Krishna book, whatever. They take them, and, oh, thank you very much, they're very friendly and cordial, and they leave. So that is indicating that they're not envious, like, type of personalities, that they're nice people. They're just a little misdirected. So it's referring to envious people who by you speaking to them will become more angry and more offensive to you. So what's the point? You go up to someone and say, hey, I think you should chant Hare Krishna. And they say, oh yeah? And then they take your book, they throw it on the ground, and they say, go to hell, And then you say, no, but I really think you should chant Hare Krishna. And they say, get out of my face. No, I really think you should chant Hare. And then they hit you in the face. What's the point of that? Is there any point? No? You could go try it today. Huh? You could go try it.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, there's no point. That's my point. So when it says preach to the faithless, it's referring to people like that. And how can you tell people like that? From their... from the interaction with them, If you say, hey, hello, how you doing, And then they just give you some nasty remark or something, then that's it, finished. You don't deal with them anymore. Because practically speaking, they're just too envious to... Or Vaisheshika Prabhu, he says, the big book distributor and Prabhupada disciple in Bay Area, he says there's a way you could tell a friendly person from an unfriendly person, And he goes, when they're coming up to the book table, you wave like this. You go, oh, hello, And then if the person's like, open and friendly, then they'll say, oh, hello, how are you doing? And they'll wave back. At least they'll give some acknowledgement. But if the guy's like, looks at you and he's kind of like, it's kind of indication that you may not get too far. Or for example, I made the mistake of trying to explain the glories of Krishna consciousness to my grandfather one time, my dad's father. And I had this book, it was the Namrita, it was the glories of the holy name of Krishna, the glories of God. And it had all these different quotes from, Bhagavatam and Brihad Aranya Upanishad and all these, different quotes from all these wonderful scriptures. And for a devotee, it's like, oh, it's great. It's a book describing the glories of the holy name of God, wonderful. So then I was reading it to my grandfather. Oh, hey, check this out. This is pretty cool. This was like 9 years ago or something. Oh yeah, check it out, And then he started becoming very critical and offensive and like that. So I figured, okay, well, I better stop reading this to him, because he's not getting it. So like that. So that's the idea. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And in terms of that Panyashara Kirtan verse, I've heard it briefly explained just in the essence that there are some people, obviously, like that are envious, or they'll be offensive if you walk up to them and try to give them a book or try to talk to them and give them prasad.
Yeah.
They'll be offensive, but by chanting, if they just hear the chanting, then the punya and the piety will start amassing, and over time they'll be ready to take a book or ready to take prasad or ready to go.
Yeah. So you want me to comment on that? Yeah, there's this idea of a gyata sukriti. So gyata, gya means to know, and means not, so you're not, they don't know. Agya, they're in ignorance. So agyata sukriti means they're not knowing, and sukriti is like the pious activities. So gyata sukriti is things they do which are good, but they're not aware that they're actually doing them and they don't know the significance behind the activity. Like, if somebody